This is Dr. Tim Terlep from Terlep Chiropractic, inviting you to join us every Wednesday morning for 30 minutes to vitality. Each week, we'll be addressing topics that are ultimately important to your health and to mine. Topics about prevention of disease, expressing greater well-being, more mobility, and vitality overall.
And there we are. And here we are. There you are. There's Dr. Tim Terlep as well. He's here every single Wednesday at this time, 11:30 to 12, for your enjoyment, your education, and it's all about you, because this is your 30 Minutes to Vitality with Dr. Tim Terlep. That's T-E-R-L-E-P if you're new to the area. He's a local chiropractor with services that go far beyond just chiropractic care. His office is located on North Cliff Boulevard, just a little east of US 19 in Spring Hill. The phone number to call to make your appointment with Terlep Chiropractic is 352-666-2222. In the meantime, Dr. Tim Terlep is here live. And you got such an easy number to remember. It's great.
It does keep it simple.
It was you did it on purpose.
So my father used to say, keep it simple, stupid, he wasn't kidding. I thought I would just do that. So good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Tim Terlep here. Welcome to 30 Minutes to Vitality. And we said every single week, we are gifted, we are built to be vital. We just get interference. All we need to do is remove that interference. We're either getting stuff that we have that's happening that needs to go, or we're not getting stuff we need to add. Remove interferences, and what do we get? Vitality.
Amen.
Right? It's a great thing. And I just want to start today, just a little brief segue. We're going to continue with our exercise discussion and its amazing benefits, right? But I just wanted to drop in because most of us don't know. It's amazing to me that we don't hear about this very often, but right now in our legislature, the House and the Senate have gone ahead in whatever I would normally want to say their wisdom, but in this one I'm going to say not so much, okay. Right? So they've gone ahead and they've passed through and said they want to go ahead and repeal PIP benefits for Floridians, PIP benefits under our auto insurance. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean?
You tell us.
Well, what that means is if something, heaven forbid, it happens. In Hernando County alone, we get 300 to 400 accidents a month. It's absolutely incredible how much bumper cars goes on all over our state, but we get a lot of accidents and people get hurt and they need to go see an orthopedic doctor. They need to go to the ER. They need to come see their chiropractic physician. They need to see a neurologist. They need to go someplace. And repeal of PIP would actually take that $10,000 minimum that we have to make sure medical bills are covered, that it covers that ER bill, that it covers a visit to me, it covers to an orthopedic guy, and that would go away, right? So they would repeal the medical benefit that would happen that we currently have, and we've had since 1973. Okay. It's working really well, probably not really wise to say this, but unfortunately, it's the Florida trial lawyers who have been pushing this and pushing this and pushing this for the last 10 years to try and get it repealed, because the only people who really benefit from this, they're the Florida trial lawyers.
Yeah, I was wondering. Okay.
Right. So they actually get to start getting their claims, and what they get, their 33 and a third percent or their 40%. So they get it from $1 instead of after $10,000 or $15,000. They start taking it from $1, and then the liability limits we're going to be required to carry go way up. Now, two ways this affects you and I. Number one is those medical bills. Number two is our premiums. Okay. Premiums are estimated to go up anywhere between $125 to $375 per person. Wow. If they do this. Okay. Right? Not a great thing. All right, so our insurance goes up, and everything that happens, there'll be no medical benefit to cover anything. You'd have to opt to get something called med pay, and I can tell you, actually taking care of people who've been traumatized after injuries, right, that most people don't even know what med pay is. Right. Right, medical payments benefits. They have PIP, and they go, great, I got that $10,000 that's there, and that's good, and right, med pay actually covers a lot more. And if you don't get that, there's absolutely no coverage at all. That we have, and we're going to be paying more and be required to carry higher liability limits, so that if I hit you, JW, forgive me if I do, right? But if I hit you as well, the only way you're going to be able to recoup it is if you then get a lawyer and sue me. What?
Right. No small claims court. There's no
benefits
involved.
Right. Yeah. And then some of it will go to our health insurance. But in here in Florida as well, we have like 12 to 13% of Floridians don't have any health insurance. And my goodness gracious, a couple of years ago, the last study looked at 27% of Floridians, most of who say they can't afford it at the time, are driving around without any coverage at all. So there will be no bodily injury to sue because 27% of the people don't have it.
Right.
So you get hit, you get hurt, you go to the ER and there's a $9,000 bill, you're on the hook.
Wow.
Right. And most of us on our health insurances have higher deductibles, right? So all that, if you have a $5,000 deductible, an Obamacare plan, and you got a $12,500 deductible, all that money comes out of your pocket. And again, when every accident, there are two people involved. There's the hitter and the hittee. So heaven forbid, I shouldn't admit this on the air, but I mean, in my lifetime, I'm going on 60. I've been involved in 2 accidents, and guess who caused them? Me, right?
Yeah.
They were young when I was significantly younger, but right. So, oh my goodness, right? And I caused them. So, and I was hurt in one of them, herniated a disc in my neck as well. With this, there is no way I can go after any, but there's no coverage at all. So people who actually cause the hitting have no benefit and nobody to go after whatsoever to cover those medical bills. So everything comes back on us, and we get the luxury of paying more for getting less, and then being stuck with large bills.
And this is just in Florida, or is this nationwide?
This is just in Florida.
Okay.
Just in Florida.
All right. But nothing's been decided yet.
It actually passed the House and the Senate.
It did, okay.
And it will go to the governor's desk.
All right.
So the governor actually, if he vetoes it, it will not pass.
Right.
Right. So we really need Governor DeSantis to say, this isn't a good plan.
There you go.
At all. And it's I won't get into all the goofiness.
Right. Well,
it's gone behind the doors and the behind the scenes.
Sure.
But again,
Politics.
the only one who's pushed this all these years is the Florida Trial Lawyers Association. It isn't the auto insurance carriers saying, oh my goodness gracious, we can't afford this anymore. This can't happen. People aren't saying, oh my gosh, this needs to change.
Right.
Consumer groups aren't saying this is horrible, it needs to change. Nobody but the Florida Trial Lawyers Association has been pushing and pushing and pushing this. So it really is not good for Floridians, and will cost each of us, just on our insurance, if we don't get in an accident, between $125 and $375 each more to get less. And if something happens and you're the person who's the hitter and you get hurt, you're on the hook for every ounce of your bill. So I would just ask that people would take just a second, because the governor's going to actually look at this and he's going to sign it in the next couple of weeks. My goodness, call our beloved governor. He, in my humble opinion, is a pretty darn good governor, right? And the phone number for his office is 850-717-9337. I'm going to say that one again.
Please.
850-717-9337. Right? And then if you want to send him an email, it's really simple. GovernorRon.DeSantis at, and I don't know what EOG means. It must be the executive office of the governor. At EOG.myflorida.com. And again, that's GovernorRon.DeSantis at EOG.myflorida.com.
It's all one word, governor. You spell out governor.
Spell
Ron
governor,
DeSantis, all
Ron.DeSantis.
Okay.
At
Ron.DeSantis.
EOG.myflorida.com. And one more time, the phone number, that's the easiest thing to do. If you're driving, you can pick up your cell phone and call 850-717-9337 and ask the governor to veto this really bad piece of legislation, which is not good for Floridians at all.
I can sort of see where it's headed. It's the ultimate goal, and well, who's behind it?
It is.
Ultimately,
And again, it's just so that trial lawyers can make more money when there's a lawsuit. That's all it is. It's not good. And they actually are getting, not only will they get it from the first dollar that is there, including medical stuff, but then they also have increased liability buckets that we're going to be required to carry. So they have bigger buckets to go after, as well as from the first dollar of medical care too. It's really lucrative for the Florida trial lawyers, but it is absolutely deleterious and a problem for you and me.
You heard it there from
So
Dr. Terlep.
please take a moment to send that email or call the governor's office and just say, please, and it's SB 54 is the bill.
Okay.
SB 54. Please vote no on SB 54. We don't want it no more. I couldn't help myself. I had to go there. So enough of that, but it really is important, because one quick of the movement of the pen for the governor saves Floridians. It's a good thing.
Yes.
So anyways, let's continue on with talking a little bit about exercise, right? And we know that we've got the 5 pillars of health that we talk about a lot at our office, right? Exercise being one of them. We talk about rest. We talk about attitude. We talk about proper neural control. And we talk about diet and nutrition, right? And we've been spending a couple of weeks talking about exercise, right? And the 3 components that we covered again last week that we look at with fitness in general is strength, endurance or aerobic capacity, and flexibility, right? Those three things that we really want to pay attention to. Because do we have patients at the office, and if anybody's listening who's a patient at the office, I apologize in advance, who are, if I can say it in a beloved and a kind way, muscle heads, right? Mm-hmm. Who look great, and a guy who has chest muscles out to here, and his biceps are like pythons, and right, and they look great. Yeah. But if I ask them to please jump on this treadmill for the next 20 minutes, within 5 minutes they're and absolutely have no endurance at all. Right. Ask them, please, can you touch your toes? And when they get to their knees, they're stuck. Right? So they have one component of it, but they don't have the others. Right? Or we've got the runner who can actually go out and do a triathlon and perform beautifully, but doesn't have any real strength at all. Right? And then you say, well, great, let's look at your flexibility. And again, no flexibility. So wonderful endurance, but very little flexibility and no strength. So the balance is not that you and I become, Olympic athletes and have all three of those components so we can compete at a high level. That's not it. Mm-hmm. That certainly isn't me, right, in any regard, right? But paying attention to all those three of those things when I actually, my personal fitness as well, make sure that I work on strength, I work on endurance, I work on flexibility, because those are the three components that we need for fitness. Now, there are a couple of really interesting studies that had been done. One of them is one of my favorites, and we'll look at a couple of studies, actually 3-4 of them, that look at both strength and look at endurance. And we talked a lot about how we can actually affect our outcomes later in life through our lifestyles. Right, we get those interferences, remove the interferences, and we get vitality. Mm-hmm. No truer words have been spoken than right here if we're not moving and being fit. The Australians did a study when they looked at strength. It was called the SMART study. Right, it's a study of mental capacity and resistance training, SMART. Right, and what the Australians were doing with this study is trying to say, okay, great. Is there anything that we can do for the dementia and the progression of Alzheimer's that we can do interventionally that can help? Because those numbers of people who have cognitive problems and particularly progressing to Alzheimer's is increasing at an alarming rate, right? And projected to be a huge numbers in the next 30 years, right? And anybody who's dealing as a caregiver for somebody with Alzheimer's knows it's horrible to watch the person. Right. It's not fun at all. It's not fun to be the caregiver. It's just a bad thing for everybody concerned, financially, socially, family, it's just awful. There's nothing good about that. Right. So the SMART study was saying, well, is there stuff that we can do? And remember in the past when we've talked about epigenetics, right? And how it's not just our genes. So many times we'll look and say, well, what genes are related to the development of Alzheimer's and cognitive impairment as we age? Right? And we can find genes, but does that mean that I'm going to get it? No, it does not. If my lifestyle is such that I don't do that. So the Australians were saying, okay, what things can we do that can be helpful? So they were looking at resistance training, right? Strength training, right? And seeing, does that have any effect on our ability to think and then the progression of that over time? So it was a relatively short study. It only lasted 6 months. But they took these folks and they put them into resistance programs. They had control groups. It was a well-designed study. And they looked at, but what they did was interesting is they started with people who actually had something that's called mild cognitive impairment, MCI, right? So, and what's weird about MCI is that with people who have mild cognitive impairment, meaning there's problems a little bit with memory, and there's problems a little bit with critical problem solving. But their lives, they can go about their business and live life and everything is, it's not like an Alzheimer's person who can't remember where the bathroom might be. Right. Or who you are, JW. I look and I go, Steve, I can't remember who you are. These folks can still function on a daily basis, make dinner, go to the grocery store, do their thing, but they suffer from mild cognitive impairment to memory and critical thinking. Right? Okay. And 30% of those people will progress to Alzheimer's, right? So we know this is data. We already got this is well defined, right? So what can we do with resistance training? Is there anything by actually getting my strength up? So they looked at baseline strength on these people and they put people under, as I said, different controls. But the main group that was actually the critical study group, they looked at what their max strength was, put them under programs that were there, and then they'd actually alter that as their strength would increase. They'd change it to 80 to 90% of their maximal strength capacity and then do the repetitions, blah, 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 right? And watched there over the 6-month period and watched their strength improved. What was amazing, even in that short period of time, is that we watched more than half of the group. They all had mild cognitive impairment, right? Half of that group with mild cognitive impairment who were in the strength training literally went back into a normal functionality for memory and for critical thinking skills.
Awesome.
Just in 6 months with strength training alone to actually develop the ability to be stronger. Now, that was every place, but in the core, the upper extremities, as well as the legs. And they found the most significant aspect that would affect it was actually leg strength. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So, but half of them in that strength training who actually did the resistance part, and the other controls did not actually have that outcome. Pretty amazing stuff when you think about it for 6 months. And what was I thought was absolutely phenomenal. They followed these people for a couple of years. 12 months later, those same people who actually enjoyed that 50%, they were still without the manifestations of mild cognitive impairment. The improvement that they got was still there a year later.
Aussie awesome.
Aussie awesome. I like that. So I like that.
Awesome.
Put that one on the Bobby. Right. So that was how that's why they didn't put me in for Crocodile Dundee. It never would have worked. Right. So but it is actually think about that.
That's all. Yeah.
It lasted a year.
Incredible.
It wasn't like they got the benefit and then it declined over the course of 4 weeks, meaning that they had to continue for the rest of their lives working and become Arnold Schwarzenegger. Blah, blah. Not at all. And none of these people became Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way, or Sylvester Stallone or any of those guys. You don't have to do that. This is simple. Even using simple band exercises, they went from yellow bands to purple bands to red bands to black band, right? So it was just with bands. Sometimes with little tiny, 2-pound weights, 3-pound weights, 4-pound weights. It doesn't mean that you're actually in the gym trying to bench press 225 pounds, right? I find that to be absolutely encouraging one more time, because again, what does it tell us? That lifestyle, this isn't even looking at diet. We're not even looking at aerobic capacity. We're not looking at sleep. When we know all these things affect those outcomes, all we're looking at is resistance and strength training. And this Australian SMART study shows, again, that you and I have the power to remove the interference of inactivity and, holy cow, get these other outcomes. And what was it? The best part, not the best part, but a really critical part of this is it didn't look at, okay, we're only going to do this on vegetarians who drink 3 quarts of purified water a day and see how it affects them. No. That was not actually part of it, right? You could actually be eating 2 steaks a day, right? And never have a vegetable cross your lips and not drink any water, right? They did not take those factors into consideration when they did it. They wanted to see what would happen to Tim and to JW and to Penny, right? What would happen to us, you and me, average guys and gals.
So any age, no certain demographic.
These were actually older people because they already had MCI.
Oh, they already had it.
So these were folks between 50 and I believe 68 years old, if I remember the numbers correctly. So let's call them middle-aged folk. Right. Who already had mild cognitive impairment. Right. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Now, there was a Swedish study. So that's a strength study. And that's been echoed in a couple of other studies as well. Right. So when we look at the Swedish study, and this is an amazing study because it's got longevity to it. They started the study and I was 5 years old. Wow. They started it in 1968, right? And they took these people and they literally followed them for 50 years.
God bless them.
Right? Yeah. 50 years. And they started these folks with looking at them in their actual functional aerobic capacity, meaning they put them on a bike and they started doing stuff, and they did EKGs and respiratory capacities and did all these testing for these folks, right? And did a baseline. So what the strength of that is because a lot of studies will turn around and they'll go, so JW, exactly how many times a week do you exercise? And what do you do? And how long do you do it? And how long have you been doing it? And right, so it's this self-reported idea of fitness or whatever. They didn't do that with this. They literally took the folks and got all the data, actually made sure they knew exactly what these people had and didn't have. And then they broke them into 3 groups. So they had the low fitness folks, they had the moderate fitness folks, and then they had the highest fitness folks, and followed them for 50 years. Right? Oh, amazing. I wanted to know how many of the researchers actually lived through the whole study, right? It was let alone the people they were studying, right? But they were looking at all this, and after the course of this, the results were nothing short of spectacular, right? Because what we found was that the people in the lowest fitness group, for aerobic this time, not strength. Now we're looking at aerobic capacity, endurance again. Remember those three things we talked about with fitness, right? So they looked and what we found was that a third of those people developed Alzheimer's. A third of them.
Okay.
In the lowest fitness group.
Oh.
Right? In the
right.
moderate fitness group, that third dropped down to 22%.
Okay.
It dropped down from the 35% down to 22%.
All right.
In a moderate fitness. And what in the world do you think happened to the people who had the highest fitness scores?
Probably cut it in half.
Even further,
10%.
all the way down to 5%.
5%.
They were
Wow.
only 5% of the study participants who are in the highest level of fitness. And again, it doesn't mean that they're out running marathons 6 days a week.
Right.
It means that these are people, we talked about the 75 minutes at high capacity or 150 minutes at modest capacity on a weekly basis. So those were folks who had that, who literally went from 35% to 5% the more fit you were. Now, on top of this, which I thought was absolutely fascinating, I loved this one, right, is it went from the people at the very beginning, they eliminated a group of people. I think there were about 20 people that were eliminated because they put them and they were doing the fitness testing and seeing what they could do. And as they did it, they developed chest pain, or their EKG became abnormal, or their blood pressure spiked into a dangerous range, right? So they were like, oh, you're not in a good capacity for this. So let's go ahead and see what we've got. And of those people that were eliminated, 50% of those people got Alzheimer's disease. Yeah.
Wow.
They were the lowest, who were actually the most critical age, couldn't even participate in the study. And half of those people ended up developing Alzheimer's disease.
Good Lord.
Absolutely amazing. Another study looking at aerobic fitness as well watched people for 20 years. And they were actually looking at brain volume on MRI. And what they found was that people, again, who were at the highest level of fitness 19 years later actually maintained brain volume of people who were actually between 18 and 32 years. And these were people who would be anywhere between 60 and 85. And after 20 years of being more fit aerobically, they actually had the same brain volume as people between 18 and 32 years old, right, on MRI. So that'd be like going to a place like Western Endo Diagnostic or something like that, one of the coolest diagnostic centers around, right? People doing this pre-MRI, post-MRI from fitness. Right? So we're just looking at cognitive capacity, Alzheimer's disease. So to say that, it's based on your genes, do you think what I just said was based on your genes? Were they looking at anybody whether they had genes or didn't have genes?
They didn't even look at it.
They didn't look at it. So we can maintain our brain capacity, the size and volume, so that the tissue is there to actually function, and then the functionality significantly improves. I mean, we almost eliminated the risk of Alzheimer's disease if you're fit. And on top of that, those 5% who did get it in the highest fitness grade, literally they delayed the onset of Alzheimer's disease by 11 years from the average age of 79 to 90 is when that actually happened. Oh my goodness, right? So to say that we don't have the ability to respond and handle that, it's amazing. Fitness is absolutely essential to making sure that we're on top of this. So it's those three things: endurance, aerobic capacity, our strength capacity, and our flexibility. Absolutely essential to make sure that we age well and stay disease-free today. We'll talk more about that, even saying disease-free today, right? We're talking about what happens as I get older, right? Because I don't want to be sick, dying, miserable, disgusting, and taking up space. Yeah. That's not my goal in life, and be pushed around by my grandchildren. Right? This is not my goal in life.
Not funny, right? It's never too late to start.
It is not too late. That's another great point. It is never too late to start. So really hopeful message when it comes to fitness. And that's why it's one of the 5 pillars of health, right? That we get to enjoy vitality when we remove the interference that's to those 5 pillars.
And that's why we recommend and suggest Dr. Tim Terlep, Terlep, so much more than just chiropractic care at his office in Spring Hill on Northcliffe Boulevard, just a little east of US 19. And you can call him, make your appointment at 352-666-2222, an entire staff to handle all your needs, plus 24/7 care if needed. 352-666-2222. Until next time, we'll see you on your 30 Minutes of Vitality.
And let not your hearts be troubled.